De Cusco seguimos a Puno, donde Susan y sus invitados no podían creer lo que vieron cuando llegamos a la isla de los Uros. Un escenario natural maravilloso donde desde lejos resaltan los intensos colores de la ropa de sus habitantes.
Surreal, really. I just kept thinking, who was the first person that thought to go down and cut the roots and rope it together, and then more families came? I mean, how did that even happen? That's the strangest, most remarkable thing. And Janet, who was the young woman, she's 19 and she has a 5-year-old, and she took us to her house and dressed us up, and she was just so generous. And I have to say that everywhere we've gone, people have been really sweet to me, the people that have recognized me. I mean, I don't think they knew who I was, but
Susan, al igual que uno de sus invitados, Eduardo Hanna, quien llegó desde República Dominicana para acompañarla en este viaje, se vistieron con la ropa típica de los habitantes del lugar. Luego nos sentamos para aprender más sobre las costumbres de esas islas flotantes. Están construidas en base a totora seca, que se trenza y se llega a convertir en un material tan sólido y compacto que constituye el piso de la isla. En este mismo material construyen sus casas y todos sus muebles. Tirando una piedra atada a una pita a través de un hueco que había en el suelo, nuestros anfitriones nos demostraron que debajo de la isla hay 17 metros de agua. De los Uros seguimos hacia Taquile, donde los habitantes nos contaron algunos secretos. Por ejemplo, que en su isla nadie es calvo. Según ellos, gracias a un shampoo que preparan moliendo hierbas de la zona en un batán y que lo mezclan con agua, produciéndose una espuma. Con esa mezcla lavaron un poco de lana y quedó demostrado que efectivamente limpia. Los pobladores le contaron a Susan que el divorcio en la isla no está permitido. Por eso están obligados a convivir antes de casarse.
We probably should have done what they do on the floating island and lived together for 3 years before we got married.
Nos enseñaron también sus tejidos y les compramos algunas cosas. El que más entusiasmó fue Miles, quien compró un chullo que usó mucho durante el resto del viaje. Para Susan, en cambio, los chullos no son novedad. Me contó que cada día los ve más en las calles de Nueva York. La música empezó, Miles, Zach y Jonathan salieron a bailar. Jonathan Brickland es otro de los invitados de Susan. Él es socio de ella en un negocio que abrieron hace 6 meses.
Tell me about your bar, Susan. How did you get in the business? And how is it for Peruvians who want to visit it?
Called Spin, and it's on 23rd Street between Park and Madison, so it's kind of midtown. It's very easy to get to by train. In fact, in the club, you enter into a space, and then you go downstairs, and in the downstairs space, there's a huge window that looks onto the train, which is completely unique. There's no other place in New York that has that.
En este bar se juega ping-pong, se pueden ver campeonatos de este deporte y también escuchar música de DJs, pero además hay una zona de restaurante.
We have 14 tables and a private room and a locker room, and so everyone should come in. And we'd like it to be a tourist destination, and there's somewhere to eat, little bar food. Maybe we'll have Peruvian food now, I don't know.
I'll give you the book, I promise.
All right, that sounds good.
De Taquile continuamos hacia Suazi, una isla privada que está muy cerca a la frontera con Bolivia. Un escenario natural maravilloso donde pasamos 2 días de relax y descanso. Para entonces ya teníamos 5 días juntas y decidimos que era un buen momento para hacer la entrevista. De Susan Sarandon como actriz lo sabemos casi todo, así que decidimos explorar su lado personal.
Let's start by your name. Why do you still use your first husband's name?
I got married when I was 20, which was way too young, but I kept his name because also he was a very, very positive influence. He was 6 years older than I was when I met him when I was 17, which is a very impressionable age. Well, he educated me and took care of me, and you know, he was a very kind man, and at that point introduced me to black and white movies and poetry and all those things, and then when we decided to split, by that time I was working so regularly, and I kind of liked the fact that I'd reinvented this person, and so I kept the name.
Susan se casó una sola vez. Después de su divorcio, tuvo a Eva Amuri, su hija mayor, con un actor de origen italiano. y 2 hijos con Tim Robbins, actor y director de cine con quien convivió 23 años, pero nunca se casó.
Why didn't you and Tim never get married?
I always felt that, well, I didn't marry Eva's father either. I was with him. I just always felt that marriage was something that made it easier for you to take the other person for granted. And that if I was going to stay with somebody, I wanted to wake up every morning and make that decision, not because of a ceremony. But of course, if you're with somebody for over 20 years, it's like, and you have children in real estate, that's like being married anyway, I suppose.
Children and real estate.
Yes, the two things that make people fight it out to the bitter end.
What kind of people do you avoid?
Boring people and people who feel they have all the answers and don't ask any questions.
Among what kind of people do you choose your friends? What kind of personality attracts you?
I've had the same friends for 30-some years. My girlfriends I've had, they're all different. They're not all actresses. Some of them are painters, some of them are writers, poets. But all of them are very passionate people and people who think and who discuss. Most of them have children, but not all. And I have a lot of gay male friends especially, who are incredibly amusing, and I guess a lot of the people that I gravitate to are somewhat outside the box the way I am. If you are a creative person, you live a life that's a little bit more nomadic and a little bit more unpredictable, and very often unstable in some way, and so a lot of my friends have those kind of lives, because I guess that's the people that we tend to meet, are people that are all trying to do something. Sometimes they're scientists, sometimes they're painters or photographers, and mothers. I mean, I have friends that their main art is creating a life for their families, and
Which
they
is
do
not
so
easy
very.
either.
It's the hardest thing, I think, is being a mom. Certainly, it's the thing that I've loved the most.
And for you, what has been the hardest part of being a mom?
I guess the hardest thing of being a mom is forgiving yourself for not being perfect. Is that as a mom you have to just say, I make mistakes, and you have to accept that. And you know, admit and be able to apologize to your kids too when you make a mistake, I think is really important.
How do you react when you get hurt?
I guess I try to understand why, you know, that hurt me, and either try to avoid it, or most of the time when you're hurt, I think that it has a lot to do with ego, you know, and if you don't have so much invested in your ego, then it's not easy to hurt you. So I think if my feelings are hurt or my vanity is hurt, then you have to sit down and say, well, that's your ego, isn't it, and try to just let go.